Hey everybody, this is Mr. Smith, and I'm just checking in with you for the month of February. You'll notice that I'm not in my usual space. I'm here in the Louisville office today, and so I wanted to get this video out to you so you could be aware of some of the things that are going on the campuses, as well as the various activities that are kind of happening throughout this month. It's a very compressed and compacted month, but there's a lot of important stuff. The first thing to note is that February 2nd was Texas Military Heroes Day, and on the second it was a Saturday, so we weren't able to do some of the things that we typically do on that day, like take a field trip, a virtual field trip, or encourage you to get out and visit a memorial near you. And so I'd like to encourage you to do those same things this week or this weekend. Go and visit. There's many memorials across the state that memorialize our veterans, and so I'd encourage you to do that. As well as to thank a veteran. If you have a family member who served, or if you see somebody out and about that's wearing military regalia, or signifying their veteran status, make sure you walk up to them. Tell them thank you for your service. It means a lot to them to know that the sacrifices that they've made are making a difference in our community and in our state. The next thing I want to discuss is that this month is Black History Month. I know that many parents and some of our students too have encountered the text or the book, the narrative of the life of an American slave, Frederick Douglass. I had the privilege of studying it quite a bit through a master's program, as well as teaching it for many years. And there's one part about that I think is so important for all folks to encounter at some point in their life. And so I wanted to share that with you. I don't have any handy slides or anything like that. I'm sorry, I'm not as prepared as your teachers are typically. But if you have that book, or if you're in a library or in a bookshop, I'd encourage you to go and open up the first couple of pages. And what you'll see there is you'll see some letters. And there's some letters written that are written on the behalf of Frederick Douglass to attest to his humanity, really, and the fact that he really did write that book, and he really did know how to read. And if you read the book, you'll notice that he starts by talking about where he's from, and he talks about who his parents were, and he names them, and how he grew up, and he kind of takes you through this cadence, and that's all very intentional, and it's a craft, and it's crafted that way to show that at that time that African American folks, slaves at that time, were so stripped of their humanity that they had to attest to the fact that they were human, that they were born, that they were literate, that they could think, that all of these things. And so those letters, those authenticating documents, as we call them, is one part of how that tradition started, as well as something that helped the abolitionist movement and ultimately led to things that happened in the Emancipation Proclamation and the rest. So Frederick Douglass is an incredibly important figure within the not just the literary canon, let's call it, but also for all of the movements that have propelled our culture to where we are presently. And, obviously there is no place in present culture for us to ever, or for anyone to have to validate their humanity to someone else. How crazy is it that we would think that you'd be talking to someone, no matter their color, no matter their creed, no matter ethnicity, gender, nationality, all that you'd be talking to another human being, and there would be the necessity for them to validate themselves as human. I mean, that should be the baseline for how we encounter each other. And so I think we've come a long ways, but we still have a lot of work to do. And so, I would encourage all of you to go out there and if you have that book, to look at it and really reflect and think deeply about why they needed that stuff, or read it and figure out, well, why did he have to say this and put it down on paper this way. I think that's incredibly important for us to think about and to kind of meditate on, as I like to say, so that we know how we're engaging with each other, how we're talking to each other, how we're treating each other in both the physical space, your community or physical community that you live in, but also the digital space, and how we are engaging with one another here too. So that is just a little snippet or a little tidbit that I wanted to share with you on behalf of Black History Month. And so I encourage you to participate in everything you can. There's a lot of stuff that you can do online as well. So please go out there and look for resources and whatnot that you can use to help you think more deeply about where we are as a culture and where we're going. Next, you'll notice that we have Capital Day on March 6th. This is an event that's run by Public School Options that all top students, families are encouraged to participate in. All K-12 Texas families actually are encouraged to participate in, so we'll have some TIVA folks there as well. We are not running the event, however, Public School Options is, and they're a parent advocacy group, so we always encourage you to reach out to them. They included a letter for us to share with you, and there's a survey inside that you can fill out. So I encourage you to do that and to participate if you can. We'd love to see you there. Myself, as well as the other head of school, will be there too. And the next thing, and I'll just include it in this bit, is that in March, from March 18th till March 21st, we're going to actually be going on the road. And there are going to be a few different staff members, your principals, myself, some K-12 Texas folks, as well as some other K-12 staff members will be on the road, and we'll be looking to meet with you, parents and students, to solicit your feedback on some things, but also to help you to re-register for next year, to answer your testing questions and whatnot. So you'll see a save the date in here for those dates, and we haven't announced the exact locations of those. We're still working those out right now. But once we have those locations in those cities, we'll get those out to you so that you have them at your you'll be able to really pin us down and make sure you're able to get there if you can. So we're excited. If I can see you next month, we'll be excited to see you then. One other thing I wanted to announce is that this week, if you didn't know, is National Counseling Week. And so we wanted to honor our counselors and thank them for all that they do. I really can't put into words all of the things that they do. They encounter some very heavy problem-solving type things that we get as we try to compile records and create new records and document historical transcripts and keep all of that on the up and up for your actual academic record. It's a hard task. There's a lot of stuff that goes in there. There's a lot of buttons. There's problem-solving. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff, and it's hard. And the fact that they do all of that with grace and tenacity and still engage and interact with you guys and help you whenever you're in need, man, it is a blessing to our campuses and to myself specifically. So if they have really impacted your life and you feel like they've really helped you along, please send your counselor send them a note, send them an email, send them a high five, send them a Bitmoji, send them something to let them know how much you appreciate them, because I know I do. Last thing I wanted to kind of preview for you is that going into next month, towards the end of February, you're going to see something that I'm calling the Journey to Stardom. And I don't want to give away too much right now, but we will be making a pretty heavy push towards our STAR test there in May and April. And I'd like you to start to think about how you can start to look at where you're at. And think about where you're at. You're going to be taking some benchmarks. You're going to be thinking, maybe you've already got your benchmark data from before. You kind of know where you sit. You know where you're struggling right now. So start thinking about what you need to do to get to that next level. What is it that you need to do and press through and maybe struggle with a little bit so that you can be prepared and ready for STAR once we're there. And so I'm going to be doing some stuff myself to make sure that I'm ready for STAR, and I'm going to be challenging all of you guys to follow me on that journey. And the last thing I'll note, if you haven't, and you haven't got as many hashtag Tops 150 pictures and videos and all the rest. So if you're out there getting your 150 minutes of physical activity each week, I'd love to see what you're doing. I really like to see those pictures. We've had people on swings, we've had yoga, I did basketball, we had somebody do a Spartan race, we had color guard, gymnastics. We've had some stuff, but it's kind of slowed down. So let's get some more of those in there so we can get them onto social media. Have a great month.